Okay, let's do homework 1. So this notation right here means that you take whatever's in parentheses and you plug it in wherever you see a variable. So for example, here you're taking -5 and plugging it in right there, and then you're taking -5 and you're plugging it in right there. So you would have -5 squared. Let's see if I go like that. Oh yeah, that's better. -5 squared, and then -4, and then a -5. And so a -5 squared is -5 times -5, which is 25. And then -4 times -5 is, well, a negative times a negative is a positive, so this would be plus 20. So this gives me 25 plus 20, which is a 45. So all these problems is just plugging in, right? If I take 6 right here and I plug it in for x, there's no other place. So I have a minus, and always put parentheses around the thing that you're plugging in. And so this is going to give me an opposite of a positive 6, which is a -6, minus 3, which gives me a -9. Okay, now on this one here, I'm taking -5 and plugging it in. So I get a negative, come on, focus, -5. Hey, dog. Sure. -5 cubed plus 2. And so this is going to be -5 times -5 times -5, which I believe is a -125 plus 2. And I think that's a -123. Okay, you got the same idea for this problem here. You're taking 4 and you're plugging it in for x, and you're taking 4 and you're plugging it in for x here. All right, let's read this next problem. So it says let f of x equals 6 over x minus 2. If f of x equals -2, find all values of x that satisfy the equation. So guys, we're looking for x. We're trying to find x. And this is saying let our function be equal to -2. That means that f of x, I can replace this f of x with -2 because my function is -2. So I'm going to let -2 be on my left side. So I'll have -2 equals 6 over x minus 2. And we know that we can always take a number and put it over 1. All right, now we're going to cross and solve. So we have 6 times 1 is 6. And then we have -2 times x minus 2. Now we have to make sure we multiply both. What do I mean by that? I need to do -2 times x, which is a -2x. But then I also have to do -2 times -2, which is a plus 4. Okay, now I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. That's going to cancel. I'm left with a -2x equals 2, because 6 minus 4 is 2. Then I'll divide by -2, and I get x equals a -1. What does that mean, you guys? That means that when I take -1 and I plug it in right there, I would get 6 and then a -1 minus 2. Well, that would give me a -3 in the denominator, and 6 divided by -3 is a -2. So I'm finding the x value that when I plug it in, I get this answer right here. All right, so now for part 3, it says find the domain of the problems and list them below. You need to know that domain stands for the x values. These are the x values that we're allowed to plug into our problem without getting an error. Well, first of all, on number 5, what number can we not have in the denominator? We cannot have a 2. And the reason why is a 2 minus 2 would give me 0, and we can never divide by 0. So right here, we cannot have 2. So x cannot be 2. And if you're struggling with that, you can literally take this right here and you can set it equal to 0. What do I mean by that? You could have x minus 2 equals 0, and then add 2, and you get x equals 2, meaning you can't have 2. We're not allowed to have 2. Okay, what's the number here that I'm not allowed to have? Well, I can't have a -3. So x cannot be -3. And then right here, last one, x cannot be -1. So x cannot be -1. All right, now I want to show you how we can write this in interval notation. So when I say x cannot be 2, if I look at a number line here, I have from negative infinity to infinity, but I cannot have 2. I'm going to put an X here. But I can have all the numbers from negative infinity to 2, and I can have all numbers from 2 to infinity. And so the way we're going to write this is negative infinity to 2, and I'm going to put an open bracket on 2. That open bracket indicates that I cannot have 2. If I have a closed bracket like that, that means I can have 2. And then I'm going to do the union symbol, and then I'm going to say that I can have all the x values from 2 to infinity. So these are not coordinates. This is telling you all the x values you are allowed to have. Allowed to have means that I could plug in any number I want into this equation except for 2. So all numbers between negative infinity and 2, and all numbers from 2 to infinity. All right, similarly, this is going to be negative infinity to minus 3, union minus 3 to infinity. And last problem here will be from negative infinity to minus 1, union minus 1 to infinity. This is a very fancy way of saying I cannot have minus 1, but I can have all other numbers. I cannot have negative 3, but I can have all other numbers. And I can have all other numbers, but I cannot have 2.